and run. This is a number 100, so that will change to any number you have stored in here. Okay, so long as you have the plus and the variable name, whatever you assign to the variable will appear in the text. Okay, so that is the very basic of output. Now the next thing I'm going to teach you is input. Now like I said, we're going to use the input class file, so make sure you have input in the same folder as you have your main file. Okay, so let's initialize a new one. Int number 1. Okay, so now we have to system.out.println. Okay, so there's the basic template. Please enter a number. Okay, now to enter the number, then you must first start the expression with the variable name number 1. Okay, now assignment, as I mentioned before, I don't know if anyone remembers, is 1 equals. So because you're going to assign it to a number, so number 1 is equal to input, that's the name of the input class file, dot read int. Okay, now this is how you use the input class file. Input.readInt, opening closing bracket, and a semicolon. Now first, again, I'll just point your attention to the case, small r, capital I. This is known as something called camel case, and you should try practice this for your variable names. If there's 2 words in a variable, you should always do it like 2 words. Okay, it starts with a small letter, but every new word do a capital W, because in variable names you can't have a space. Okay, this will not work, so make sure they're always together. So 2 words, just like that. Okay, anyway, so number 1 is equal to input.readInt. Now all this does is it lets you enter a number from the console. When you get to it, the console will actually pause. I'll show you this now in a minute. And then system.out.println, and the number you entered is plus number 1. We're using the concatenation there. Okay, now so we're going to build it first. Okay, it put in this as a number from what we used earlier. So now, as we can see here, please enter a number. And now the console has stopped because it is now waiting for you to input something. So even if you press enter, it will just keep going down until you enter a number. So we can enter whatever number we want, say 34. The number you entered is 34. Okay, now let me make note that right here you are entering the number. You are declaring number 1 as whatever number you enter in there. So let's say you initialize it as 10. Now wherever you use number 1 from now on, it will be the number 10. Unless you manually change it yourself, it will always be 10. Okay, so again, system.out.println number 1. This is still going to equals 10. Okay, again, we'll see with the console, please enter number 10. Okay, the number you entered is 10, and 10 again. Number 1 stays as what you inputted as earlier. Okay, so that's really the gist of basic input and output. Now it's the same for any other variables you use. Okay, so int number, double float, sorry, double decimal float decimal char character. Okay, let's not forget our semicolons. So whenever we're going to initialize it as something, we have to do it the same. So number is equal to input dot read int brackets and a semicolon. Decimal is equal to input dot read double brackets semicolon. Okay, sorry, I'll have to change this name to 2. So decimal 2 is equal to input dot read float, and finally character is equal to input dot read char brackets and a semicolon. So just always remember that it always starts with an input and a dot. Well, input dot read, that's the same for all of them, and then it's int with a capital I, double with a capital E, float with a capital F, char with a capital C. So it's pretty much the exact same as the data type, but with a capital letter instead of using a small one. Okay? So that pretty much, that covers basic input and output, I suppose. Again, I don't know how easy to understand it is, but that's really all you need to know. System.out.println and this. If you're putting in a string, make sure it's within commas or quotation marks. And then concatenation is simply a plus and number. And then if you wanted to even add more text onto it, you can still do it by doing plus, open it, and this is more text, close it. Okay, so you can see clearly right here. You can do this as many times as you want through, you know, in the system.out.println. You can keep on adding to it, but I advise you don't make it too long because it'll run off the console and it just won't look right. Okay, so that's really all you need to know then, you know. Concatenation just works with anything. All you have to do is just change the variable name. So the number you entered is number 1, or if you want to use decimal, decimal 2, character. But again, you couldn't use it up here. You couldn't use decimal up here because you've actually initialized it afterwards. So make like everything runs in a sequence in Java. So make sure if you wanted to use one of these, it has to be after you've used it. So down here, system.out.println decimal. Okay, so that's pretty much it for basic input and output. Again, if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comments, you can send me a message, you can email me, whatever you like. But that should cover the basics of input and output, and you'll see it more into practice as we get on to the JLabs.